If you're waiting for your green card, planning to travel, or worried about your visa status, the next 60 seconds could change everything you thought you knew about your future in America. January 2026. Just dropped bombshells that most immigrants won't see coming, and I'm about to break down exactly what this means for you, your family, and every single person fighting to stay in this country legally. The rules just shifted, the timeline just moved, and if you don't know what's happening right now, you could lose months, maybe years, of progress. Stay with me. The coffee was still hot in my hand when my phone exploded with messages this morning. Former colleagues, immigration attorneys, families I've helped over the years, all asking the same desperate questions. What just happened? Is my case affected? Should I cancel my trip? Do I need to file something today? And I knew, sitting there at 5 in the morning, that January 2026 would be remembered as one of those pivot points in American immigration history, the kind that separates those who understood the moment from those who waited too long to act. Let me be direct with you, because you deserve the truth without the political spin or the legal jargon that makes your head hurt. After 17 years working inside the machinery of American immigration policy, advising members of Congress, sitting in rooms where these decisions get made, and now helping thousands of people navigate this system through my content, I can tell you this with absolute certainty. What we're witnessing right now is not just another monthly update. This is a fundamental recalibration of how America processes, evaluates, and admits immigrants in 2026 and beyond. The January Visa Bulletin dropped, and within hours, immigration attorneys across the country were fielding panicked calls. And they should be panicking, not because the sky is falling, but because understanding these changes right now, today, this week, gives you a strategic advantage that could literally save your American dream. Let me walk you through this like I would if you were sitting across from my desk, because every word here matters to your future. The Visa Bulletin revealed something that seasoned immigration watchers have been dreading. Employment-based categories are showing retrogression in multiple areas. Family-sponsored categories are moving at glacial speeds for certain countries, and the gap between filing dates and final action dates has widened to the point where families are making life decisions based on timelines that keep shifting like sand. For Indian nationals waiting in the EB2 category, the final action date has barely moved, sitting at April 2012. Read that again. April 2012. That means highly skilled professionals who filed their green card applications during the Obama administration are still waiting, still in limbo, still unable to change jobs freely, still unable to plan their lives with certainty. Chinese nationals in the EB3 category are looking at dates that transport them back to June 2020, which might sound recent until you realize that's pre-pandemic filing, and the backlog has only intensified since then. Filipino workers in the family fourth preference category are staring at dates from September 2002. 24 years. An entire generation has grown up in the time it takes for some of these cases to move through the system. Mexican nationals seeking family reunification are seeing dates that feel like ancient history, and the emotional toll of this waiting, this endless, grinding, hope-depleting waiting, is something that policy papers and government websites never capture. But here's what you need to understand about the January Bulletin beyond just the dates. The State Department is signaling through these numbers that demand continues to massively outpace supply, that per-country caps are creating impossible bottlenecks, and that without legislative action, which seems increasingly unlikely in the current political climate, these backlogs will continue to define immigrant life in America for the foreseeable future. The Bulletin is not just a chart of dates, it's a window into the government's capacity, priorities, and constraints. Now let's talk about what's causing even more immediate anxiety for many of you. Travel bans and expanded vetting procedures. The landscape has shifted dramatically, and if you're planning international travel, if you're renewing documents, if you're in the middle of consular processing, you need to understand exactly what's happening at the policy level, because ignorance here doesn't just delay your plans, it can derail them entirely. The administration has expanded extreme vetting procedures that were already controversial and complex. What does this actually mean in practice? It means longer processing times at consulates worldwide. It means additional administrative processing that can add weeks or months to visa approvals. It means more scrutiny of social media, employment history, travel patterns, and family connections. For nationals of certain countries that have been on various watch lists or subject to previous travel restrictions, the scrutiny has intensified to levels we haven't seen since the immediate post-9/11 era. If you're from Iran, Syria, Libya, Somalia, Yemen, Venezuela, North Korea, or certain other countries that have faced travel restrictions in recent years, you need to understand that consular officers are operating under heightened protocols. Your visa interview will likely be longer, more detailed, and more invasive than what your friends from other countries experience. You'll be asked about religious practices, political affiliations, military service, and extended family members in ways that feel uncomfortable because they are designed to be thorough to the point of exhaustion. Biometric data collection has expanded. The systems that track entries and exits have become more sophisticated. The databases that consular officers access during your interview now include more information sources than ever before. And here's the part that keeps immigration attorneys up at night. The definition of security concerns has broadened. Activities that might have seemed innocuous 5 years ago, a social media post, participation in a student organization, travel to certain regions, can now trigger additional review. For those of you on temporary visas, H-1B, L-1, F-1, J-1, the calculus of international travel has changed. Every time you leave the United States and seek to return, you are subjecting yourself to a new round of evaluation. Your visa stamp must be valid. Your documentation must be perfect. Your story must be consistent. And even with everything in order, you could face secondary inspection, delays, or in worst-case scenarios, denial of entry for reasons that seem arbitrary, but are grounded in policy interpretations that shift with political winds. I remember counseling a brilliant software engineer, an Indian national on an H-1B visa who had been working in Silicon Valley for 6 years, building products that millions of Americans use every day. He went home for his sister's wedding, a trip he'd planned for months, and when he returned to San Francisco International, he was pulled into secondary inspection for 7 hours. 7 hours of questioning, database checks, and ultimately, thankfully, admission back into the country. But those 7 hours aged him. The fear in his voice when he called me from the airport, the uncertainty about whether he'd see his apartment again, his colleagues, his life, that's the emotional reality of immigration in 2026. The new vetting rules also impact green card holders in ways that many people don't realize. You might think that once you have your green card, you're safe, that travel is no longer a concern. But lengthy absences, travel to certain countries, or even activities abroad that could be construed as abandonment of residence can trigger investigations when you return. Customs and Border Protection officers have broad authority to question your intent to maintain permanent residence, and if they determine you've abandoned your green card, they can initiate removal proceedings right there at the airport. What does this mean practically for you? If you're a green card holder planning to be outside the United States for more than 6 months, you need a re-entry permit. If you're traveling to countries that are on security watch lists, document everything. Keep records of your activities. Be prepared to explain your trip in detail. If you've been outside the United States for extended periods recently, consult with an immigration attorney before your next trip, because the pattern of your travel matters as much as any single trip. For those waiting in consular processing, the delays are becoming legendary. Embassies are understaffed, backlogged, and operating under protocols that prioritize security over speed. Appointments that used to take weeks to schedule now take months. Interview waivers that used to be common are now rare. And administrative processing, that bureaucratic black hole where cases disappear for indefinite periods, has become so common that it's almost expected for applicants from certain countries. I spoke with a family last week, a Syrian doctor approved for an immigrant visa through his employer, a hospital in rural Ohio desperate for his expertise. He completed his interview in Amman, Jordan, in October. We're now in late January, and he's still in administrative processing with no end date, no updates, no ability to plan his life. His contract in Ohio is in jeopardy. His family is in limbo. His career is on hold. And the only answer he gets from the consulate is the same robotic response about security checks and processing times. This is the human cost of extreme vetting. But here's what you need to know that doesn't make headlines. Within this challenging landscape, there are still strategies, still pathways, still ways to navigate these systems successfully. The immigrants who thrive in this environment are the ones who stay informed, who document everything, who build stronger cases than necessary, who understand that immigration in 2026 rewards preparation and punishes assumption. If you're in the United States on a temporary visa, this is not the time for risky job changes, gaps in status, or casual travel. Maintain your status obsessively. Keep copies of everything. Build a file that documents your entire immigration history, every entry, every visa, every approval notice, every pay stub, every tax return. When you do travel, carry this documentation with you. Be prepared to prove your case at the border because you might need to. For those waiting for priority dates to become current, use this time strategically. If you're on an H-1B waiting for your EB-2 or EB-3 green card, consider whether premium processing for your extension makes sense. Stay with employers who will support your case long-term. Avoid companies with shaky finances or histories of immigration violations because their problems become your problems. Document your qualifications continuously. If your category requires you to maintain the job you were doing when your labor certification was filed, make sure your current job duties align with that description. If you're considering family-based immigration, understand the realistic timelines before you make major life decisions. Spouses and minor children of U.S. citizens can generally immigrate relatively quickly, but adult children, siblings, and family members from backlogged countries face waits that span decades. Don't put your life on hold for a priority date that might not become current for 20 years. Make informed decisions about education, career, relationships based on reality, not optimism. For students on F1 visas watching these developments and wondering about their future, understand that your student visa is just the beginning of a much longer journey. The optional practical training program remains a valuable bridge to H-1B status, but the H-1B lottery is exactly that, a lottery. Make yourself as marketable as possible. Study fields with demonstrated labor shortages. Build skills that make you indispensable. Network with employers who have experience sponsoring visas. And have backup plans because in immigration, backup plans are not pessimism, they're survival. The January 2026 landscape also includes increased interior enforcement, more worksite inspections, more scrutiny of employment authorization, and more consequences for employers who fail to comply with immigration regulations. This means your employer's compliance matters to your status. If you discover your employer is cutting corners on immigration paperwork, reporting requirements, or wage obligations, understand that you could be collateral damage in an enforcement action. Choose your employers carefully. Asylum seekers are facing perhaps the most dramatic changes. New credible fear standards, expedited removal procedures, and limited access to work authorization are making the asylum process even more grueling than it already was. If you're considering an asylum claim, understand that the bar has been raised significantly. Generalized violence, economic hardship, and personal disputes are insufficient. You need documented evidence of persecution or credible fear of persecution based on protected grounds. You need a strong legal case prepared with professional help because representing yourself in immigration court in 2026 is like performing surgery on yourself. Technically possible, but catastrophically unwise. The enforcement climate also means that any interaction with law enforcement carries immigration consequences. A traffic stop, a misdemeanor arrest, even charges that are dismissed can trigger ICE involvement if you're not a U.S. citizen. Know your rights. Carry documentation of your legal status. Have an immigration attorney's contact information accessible. Create a plan with your family for what happens if you're detained, because in 2026, being prepared for the worst-case scenario is not paranoia, it's prudence. But amidst all this challenge, all this uncertainty, all this legitimate fear, there is also this truth. Millions of immigrants successfully navigate this system every year. Families reunite, dreams materialize, businesses launch, careers flourish, children grow up American. The system is broken in many ways, inefficient, backlogged, sometimes cruel in its bureaucracy, but it is also still functional for those who understand it, respect it, and work within it strategically. The immigrants who succeed are the ones who treat their immigration case like the most important project of their lives, because it is. They don't miss deadlines. They don't submit incomplete applications. They don't lie, even about small things, because small lies become big problems in immigration. They invest in good legal help when necessary. They stay informed about policy changes. They build strong cases with abundant evidence. They prepare for interviews like they're preparing for the bar exam. And they never ever give up, even when the wait feels endless. January 2026 is challenging, but you are not powerless. Knowledge is power in immigration, and you now know more than most people about what's happening, why it's happening, and how to respond. Use this information. Share it with people who need it. Make better decisions because you understand the landscape. And remember that your journey, as difficult as it is part of a larger American story that has always been about people willing to overcome obstacles to build better lives. I'll be here every single day bringing you updates as they happen, breaking down policies as they're announced, and giving you the information you need to navigate this system successfully. But I need you to do something for me, for yourself, and for every immigrant who needs this information. Subscribe to this channel right now so you never miss an update that could affect your case. Hit that like button so YouTube shows this critical information to more people who desperately need it. Share this with your family, your friends, your community members who are navigating their own immigration journeys. Drop a comment below telling me your situation, what you're most worried about, what questions you need answered, because your stories guide the content I create. And turn on notifications so you're alerted the moment something breaks that affects your future. We're in this together, and together, we're going to navigate whatever comes next. Your American dream is not dead, it's just demanding more of you right now. Rise to meet it.